Hello and welcome to the NFL Draft Talk podcast, where we talk all things NFL draft. Today we are carrying on our positional ranking series. We've gone through the majority of positions and we're now left with just a couple to go through. I'm Owain. I'm joined as ever by my good friend Stu. We're a man down for the next couple of episodes, so it's just you and me fending for ourselves with Brian off duty. In this episode, we'll be ranking the top linebackers in this class. So Stu, first up, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, it's good to be back talking draft stuff with you again as well. I've got no Brian to keep us in line. I hope he's treating his good lady wife to a nice birthday night out. But yeah, I'm sure we'll manage without him. It won't be the same, but we'll do our best to try and keep the show running smoothly.
Yeah, we'll try and keep us in order. So yeah, the two of us, so me and Stu today, we'll go back and forth. We'll try and keep things in order. So me and Stu, we've had our eyes on the linebacking class. Each of us are going to give you our top 5 linebackers. For transparency, neither of us have seen each other's lists. We've obviously discussed the prospects amongst ourselves, but we don't know what our rankings are. So Stu, kick us off. Do you want to start with number 5? Who is your 5th ranked linebacker?
Yeah, so for me, number 5, I have Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker from Ole Miss. So he began his career at Arkansas before transferring to Ole Miss in 2024, where he really had his breakout season. 88 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. So Paul, he's 6'1", 222 pounds. He's not the biggest linebacker out there, but he plays with instincts and has play recognition skills. He identifies blocking schemes really well and the run fit as well. He's really good in zone coverage with really good fluid hips and transitions. And he's got a good awareness of route combinations as well. He's able to pattern match a lot better than some of the linebackers in this class. He's got really good closing bursts, as you expect. He's a bit of a smaller guy, so he is very quick. And he can play multiple positions across that linebacker. He's been effective in both run, defense, and coverage. So he can cover tight ends because he's got the speed to outrun them, and he can cover running backs who come out of the backfield as well. He also is very rarely injured. He's on the field a lot and has played very durable throughout his time. Downside, I think he is on the small side, so he sometimes does difficulty disengaging from offensive linemen who tend to swallow him up, particularly those powerful guards that he comes up against. He sometimes is a little bit difficult in recognizing misdirection in the pre-snap, and he needs to be able to stack and shed a little bit more. But I think there's raw tools there. Very quick, agile linebacker, and for me, he came in at number 5.
Yeah, I liked him too. I had him at number 4. So we're fairly close there. He weighed in at 235 at the combine, so he has put on a little bit of weight, which is good to see. But yeah, I agree. He seems to lack a little bit of lower body strength, building on what you were saying there, Stu. And he plays quite upright, which means he doesn't miss any tackles, but it can appear quite awkward at times where maybe running backs can get a couple of extra yards falling down because he doesn't quite stop them immediately at the line. But yeah, so decent enough size, especially if he does play at that heavier weight. Goes by Pooh Paul, so we will refer to him as Pooh Paul from now on, not Chris Paul Jr. More of like that modern day style linebacker, forceful. Will probably operate on the weak side, you would have thought, at the next level, where he plays with instincts. He's got good nuance to display correct angles when chasing down rushers, and he's got underrated elusive athleticism as well. When working through traffic, he proactively looks for work, and he's able to react and shoot through gaps with that athleticism and the intelligence to read defenses in the run game. And yeah, I liked him as an agile mover, able to stick with tight ends in the passing game, and I think that he'll be able to create leverage against NFL opposition consistently, especially now he's added some weight. So I'd be interested to see if he can carry on playing that athletic with an extra 10 pounds or so on. But yeah, very productive as well. 88 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks. Can blitz nicely as well. From deep, and some, when he's aligned from the slot, he can attack and blitz. So yeah, I really liked his combination of speed, movement skills, and intelligence. Yeah, I had him at number 4.
So we're kind of viewing through that same kind of lens, don't we? We're not far off.
Yeah. My number 5 was Barrett Carter from Clemson, who I feel like I've watched forever now. He first got
He
eyes
seems
on
to
him
have been wanting to come out for
yeah, we
10
fully
years.
expected him to declare last year, didn't, went back to Clemson. I'm not sure that's done his draft stock any good, to be honest with you. I probably would have had a higher grade on him last year compared to this one, but we'll probably go in a similar range. I would expect him to go maybe round 3, early round 4, something around that mark. 82 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks, 7 passes defended in 2024. So has maintained production. Explosive athlete, very good playmaking tendencies in coverage, physicality as well to attack the box, so he can do both. I like that his athleticism is proactive, so he can get a man coverage when he's paced up. He can mirror routes and he can follow. He's got the change of direction skills as well, and he's one of those who's able to read the quarterback's eyes when he's playing in zoning coverage. So he's more of that coverage linebacker. A little bit smaller, so he is 6'1", 225. That's what we think Chris Paul played at, who is obviously put on a little bit of weight, but yet he has that explosive athleticism. I think he'll be versatile enough to play Sam Orwell at the next level. Explosive athlete. His major problem for me came from his play strength. I think he lacked a lot of play strength, especially against the run. He didn't consistently secure tackles, and that's an important trait for the linebacker position. I don't think he had the physicality to consistently win at the line of scrimmage when playing in man coverage. So I liked what I saw from Barrett Carter, but I think he'll be one of those that is predominantly a coverage linebacker at the next level.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the class actually very similarly, but I think because I've ranked him as a linebacker, you've ranked at an edge, we're going to be out of alignment. That's going to come later on because I have him at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you've got him at 5, so I think we're pretty much on a par, really. He's someone who seems to have been around for a long time in the college game. We've talked about him for a couple of years, and then he's decided to go back, and he's wanted to maximise his time at Clemson. I think he is someone who is really good at kind of staying square to the line whilst trying to navigate through the traffic. He has got really good movement skills. He changes direction well, and he can fire downhill when he needs to as well. He does have that ability to burst through the gaps. Again, you mentioned about that play strength against some of when he's coming up against those offensive linemen when they're pulling and coming up against him. I think that's where he struggles the most. I think he's okay against your running backs and tight ends, but those really strong offensive linemen, when he has to deal with them coming through on run plays, I think that's where he really struggles. But I think he is someone who will, as you say, coverage is going to be his main thing, isn't it? He's got the movement skills to match and move around there. He's had a few interceptions, 20 pass breakups, so he's sure that he has got the ability as a pass defending linebacker. So I think we'll see more of him on obvious passing downs rather than the more obvious running downs in early doors as well. So he was 6 for me, but again, when we talked about, he is in that. We're kind of seeing them similarly, I think.
Yeah, when you're listening to this in its entirety, and you see us be 1 or 2 out here, go and watch the Edge episode. There's going to be a certain Jalon Walker who we're going to talk about later on, but you'll see that I've evaluated him slightly differently, and we'll get into that discussion at the end. So that's why. But I think we're almost going to be identical here throughout. We'll see now. Who have you got at number 4?
I have Demetrius Knight.
Yeah, so this is going exactly as we expected.
So
I've got him at number 3.
So he's the linebacker from South Carolina. He had his 4 years at Georgia Tech before transferring through to, and he's been he had the season at UNC Charlotte, and then he had his final season at South Carolina, and that's where he really kind of
six-year senior, 4 years at Georgia Tech, 1 year at Charlotte, and then
Charlotte, and then he's moved to the South Carolina. So he's somebody who's really experienced, really mature, and he really anchored that Gamecocks defense through his last season. He's got really good athleticism. He's got good lateral agility and quickness. He can move from gap to gap effectively. I think he's good in both man and zone coverage, and he's quite instinctive. He positions himself well. His length and range make him quite disruptive. He also has that ability to trigger downhill when need to, and he closes distances very, very quickly. He's really good, so he's good in that run defense and also on the blitz as well. They've used him in various different ways in different schemes, matchups and whatnot as well. And as I said, yeah, he's that 6-year player, so he's really experienced. And we have seen players now who've had that extra bit of eligibility come in and just make a name for themselves quite quickly in the league because they have so much football there. I think he needs to maybe refine his tackling technique a little bit. He's a little bit lungy at the ankles or has his head down ducking. And he can sometimes just be a little bit hesitant in diagnosing plays. Hand usage as well. It's just something that needs a bit more refinement, but there's a lot to like in his game for me.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Some of the negatives you point out there, I wasn't so concerned with the tackling technique. I didn't necessarily see a problem. I put it as actually his tackling as a positive. So I thought he drops his pads into coverage to have that immediate stop, and he's got really long arms as well to wrap up tackling. So I didn't have so much of a problem with that. His negatives for me, I only had one. I thought he was an exceptional prospect. I found his lower half was a little bit tight. He's quite tight-hipped, which means that he doesn't necessarily have the change of direction skills that you would expect for someone who's such an explosive mover. But for me, what really stood out, that he's aggressive. His mentality, He goes after it, but he's also aggressive in his movement as well. That he is a pounding runner, that he drives towards the ball. Got good size as well, 6'2", 235. Really good pad level as well to win one-on-one in space and against rushers. I think he will be a true 3-down player at the next level. And while he's a little bit tight in the lower half, I think he's got natural fluid athleticism that will allow him to stay with crafty runners, and he's able to stay square to anticipate as a run defender. So I think he'll enter the NFL with a really good high floor, but I think if you can further unlock that mentality and the athleticism, then I think you're going to get a really high ceiling heading into the NFL, especially considering he's got a mature frame, sense of mind as well. 82 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I just think he's a very good, well-rounded prospect.
Yeah. And I think when you mention about that kind of tightness, for me, I think that's more in his turning back on himself. He's a bit tight.
Yeah.
Side to side, I think he's okay.
Yeah, lateral,
he kind of shuffles, lateral's all right. It's the turn movement, I think that. Yeah. I think is that what you're kind of referring to?
Yeah, it's sort of like when you plant your foot and change direction, he's just a little bit slower, especially in coverage. But Demetrius Knight, South Carolina, he was my number 3. Stu, I'll come back to you here because we'll rattle through them otherwise. Who have you got a number 3?
This will, again, is probably going to be you 2. Well, maybe not, but Carson Schwesinger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have gone pretty much chalk on this, actually.
Yeah.
The linebacker from UCLA. And he is someone who began his college career as a walk-on at UCLA and has rose through the team and has been a team captain and a standout player. He is slightly bigger than some of these other guys. He's got maybe 10, 15 pounds more on them. He's a really good athlete for me. He covers ground both vertically and horizontally really quite quickly. He can make plays all over the field. I think he's instinctive. He recognizes plays well. He definitely has a bit more fluidity in his hips and he can transition quite quickly. He's really high motor. He never stops, never gives up on a play. He's constantly chasing down ball carriers when they break out into space. Again, there's not a lot to dislike for Carson Schwesinger, if I'm honest. Again, come back to it. These linebackers are always going to struggle power against the guards who are pulling, but that's about the only. I think I could probably say that for every linebacker that plays football. But for me, there's just a couple who are ahead of him, but I think he's going to go quite highly in this draft. I think he's very well thought of. There has been people who have talked about mocking him late round 1. I think that range into early day 2, I wouldn't be surprised to see Carson Schwesinger off the board.
Yeah, plays bigger. He's 6'2", 242 pounds. So he is a heavy edge, and he plays like it as well. He's
a hitter.
Yeah, extremely powerful. Rarely misses the tackle, but he has really impressive bend and flexibility to get, especially as a pass rusher. I was really impressed with his pass rushing stats. He's extremely versatile, really good blitzer, but there are times where he's lined up off the edge and he can get after it. He got 4 sacks in 2024, so I really like his potential impact as a pass rusher at the next level as well. Extremely good eyes, staying downfield. Is developing that pass rush technique as well to stay versatile off the edge, able to in coverage, able to close windows, is really sticky mirroring, and got really good foot speed, and it's a really powerful mover. Really good mental traits as well. His anticipation to close on the ball in zone strong. He can get out 3 passes deflected, 2 interceptions in 2024. He is just a menace on every down. He can affect every down, so he's going to stay on the field for all 3 downs at the next level. 90 solo tackles, led the FBS in 2024. So he's a bruising tackler. There's really isn't an awful lot not to like about Carson Schwesinger. He'll be an early day 2 guy, I would have thought. Limitations, obviously, as a walk-on, he's going to be a little bit of an older prospect, but said there's a few without those in these class, which doesn't overly concern you in terms of draft stock, but it's something that's going to sit there on the board, especially when it comes to second contracts and things like that. And his quickness doesn't always snap to the ball in the run game, but nothing that I was concerned about, because he's an overall a very, very good athlete, works horizontally and laterally. Really, I was really impressed with Carson Schwesinger. I didn't think I was going to be as impressed as I was, actually.
He is one of these guys that you can see developing into that real leader in the middle of the field. They talk about the quarterback of the defense being in the linebacker role. Not all guys are suited to do that. I think Carson Schwesinger is. I think in a few years' time, you'll see him walking up to the center line with that C on his shirt. You can just see him. He's got that kind of air about him that he's going to be a leader on the defense very, very quickly.
Yeah, he's just everywhere. 136 total tackles is a massive number at the college level, especially for UCLA, who didn't make the playoffs. It was a really productive career for Carson Schwesinger, especially as a senior. This is where it might get interesting. So I've got 1 prospect left, which is Jihaad Campbell from Alabama. You've obviously got 2. How are you stacking those up? Because this is where the conversation might get interesting.
No, I'm going to be agreeing with you on number 1.
Yeah.
Jalon Walker is a player I have struggled with the most in this draft.
It's a difficult evaluation.
He is really, really difficult. And I still don't. If you were to tell me I was right, I would be happy. If you tell me I'm wrong, I'm happy as well. I really, really struggled with him. I think I see him more as being a linebacker, if I'm honest. I think there's a lot of things that I like about him as a linebacker. I think that he has got a really explosive first step, which again is something you want to see in an edge rusher. I think I'm concerned about his size for being a full-time edge rusher.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think definitely he would have to be a stand-up outside linebacker if you're going to play him in that edge role. I just don't think
he's going to be if you're going to play him. Well, I think either way, whether you're playing him as a linebacker or you're playing him as a true edge, he's going to be in a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think that's what you're going to have to do. It's going to have to be the right scheme for him, but he's going to be an outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme that you either move around or you just let him go off the edge.
Yeah, because he's not someone who you can set a hard edge in a run game.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got the technique hands-wise and things as an edge rusher. I could see him more being in that, blitzing linebacker, chase down running backs, a better version of Ivan Pace for me.
He went undrafted.
Yeah, a better version.
Yeah.
He's just that. I mean, he's playing very well for Minnesota now.
Yeah. He went criminally underrated.
Yeah, but as I say, that kind of style of linebackers, where I see Jalon Walker just being that blitzer. Minnesota would be the perfect team for him if played linebacker. The way Brian Flores just sends people after it, playing in that.
Yeah.
But I think he has the ability to really run down running backs as well because he's so quick and explosive. I just really struggle with him. I would like him better as a linebacker. Others will like him better as an edge rusher, and I'm okay with that.
So, in coverage, then, what do you think about him in coverage? If you think he's going to play linebacker, then that's where I struggled most with him, which is why I've had him as an edge.
As an edge, yeah, I get that too. He can drop into coverage, and he's quick enough to do it, and he's fluid enough to do it. Whether it's natural for him, I don't think so. I think he's just an inexperienced player overall. He hasn't played a huge amount of football, and he might just be figuring things out. And I think teams will be figuring him out as well. Yeah, I think you could mix and match him. You could move him around and do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I just struggle to see him full time playing only on the edge.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. He is a very difficult evaluation, and I guess it's unfair to label him as an edge rusher. But in terms of when you're doing rankings and you're going through it, you've got to put them somewhere.
A defensive player would be a nice category for him.
Well, I would prefer just to label him as a pass rusher rather than a true edge, because I'm not sure I'd want him setting the edge all the time, but I'm more than happy to let him rush the passer on every down. And from multiple different alignments. That doesn't have to be off the edge every time. He can, burst through the A gap. I just think his projection is best as a pass rusher, and I think his best snaps come as a pass rusher. Yes, he's versatile, but I think if you mentioned Brian Flores, if you get him with a creative play caller who can move him around the formation and just let him terrorize the backfield, I think that's where he'll be his best. It's almost unfair to compare him to the edge class or the linebacker class because he's such that tweener type prospect. But first year starting in 2024, 60 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and that came playing this tweener role. So I think if you gave him that full time allowance to rush the passer, then those numbers would skyrocket. Sometimes you have to hang your hat on a prospect, and you can't. Sometimes you just see something, and I do see something in Jalon Walker. Go and watch the edge episode because we discussed it in detail there as well. He's my second graded edge rusher, and that I think he's going to go highly. I don't know where he's going to go, and I think it is vitally important that he gets with a creative play caller, whether that's head coach or defensive coordinator who has a plan for him. That you can see how this goes wildly wrong if they don't, and that you would think, if you're going to draft Jalon Walker in the first round, you can have a plan for him. The NFL never surprises me when it comes to player evaluation and coaching. Lacks a bit of play strength, but I think with time, and if he's afforded that time, he has the tools to be a double-digit sack guy at the next level, whether that's as a stand-up linebacker or whether he does put on weight and develops into that true edge. But it is all projection, and you have to almost envisage what Jalon Walker is going to be like in 2 years' time, and people are going to see what that looks like very differently.
Yeah, there's these kind of prospects every year that come up where we get an interesting debate about where we rank them, and I probably am going to admit defeat on this one. I think most people will have him as an edge, and that's fine. He's my Brian Branch of last year, where I ranked him in the cornerback group when everyone had him in the safeties, and it's.
I don't think it is. I think it might be me that's the outlier, because
I don't know.
You do simulators and you do things like that. He's listed as a linebacker on almost everything. And I'm not convinced that the NFL will use him as a true linebacker. I don't know.
It's funny. There's these prospects every year.
It's so tricky. And the reason why we come back to that is we might as well combine them here, right? We both have Jihaad Campbell from Alabama, ranked number 1. And what I've just said there about Jalon Walker, I think if I have Jihaad Campbell listed as a traditional linebacker, then why don't I Jalon Walker? Because Jihaad Campbell is an excellent pass rusher. He is excellent, but I prefer what he can do in coverage than what I've seen from Jalon Walker, and that is what a split for me. Do you want to talk about what your notes on Jihaad Campbell at the top here, because he is an exceptional prospect that I think is going very high.
He's just going up and up and up, isn't he? Every time you see in a mock draft, you started off with Jihaad Campbell in round 2, then it's a bottom half of round 1, then it's middle. Now he's in the top 10.
I would not be. You're going to see him go in top 10.
I think we are. Yeah. So Jihaad Campbell, he's a guy who had a really productive career at Alabama, who moved from the IMG Academy in senior year. So he's had this last year 117 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. Second team All-American and first team All SEC honors. I think he's a good size for a modern linebacker, 6'3", mid 240s. He can make plays all over the field. As you said, he definitely has that ability to drop into coverage a little bit more, but he can also rush the passer really well. Yeah. I think he's really got really good instincts for the game. He can play. You talked about coverage. He can play both man and he can cover his zones really well as well. He's got that ability to do both. His length and range just make him really disruptive in those passing lanes. He can cover those lanes really very quickly. We talked again about strength. I think he's a lot stronger than some of these linebackers as well, and he's able to shed that blocks from those linemen a little bit easier than some of these guys. And he hits hard. He hits very, very hard, particularly if you're a ball carrier. He is going to put you in the turf with a lot of force. Again, we're talking about setting the edge. You don't want him playing out on the edge in run plays. I don't think trying to set an edge is a pass rusher. That's why, again, I think linebacker is where you're going to have him. But he didn't play much in his early years at Alabama, so maybe hasn't played as much football as some. But for me, he's a really, really exciting prospect. I can't see him getting much past 8 or 9 in this draft. I don't think. I think that's where he's going to go. He's one of the cleaner prospects that you've got as well. So, and he's been a really fast riser throughout this process. You see these players, don't you, who start off at the start. Oh yeah, he's going to be a day 2 player, and then more info comes out. They test. They do pro days, they have interviews, and he's just somebody who's on that momentum train now.
Question for you. Did you have any negatives on your notes?
I did, but again, it was more it was really just the kind of experience and sometimes the naivety. He does sometimes bite a little bit on the misdirection. He's sometimes overly aggressive. Not much else, really. Yeah. Nothing much else to go.
I didn't write down any negatives. That I think he is an exceptional prospect, and that doesn't mean that he's perfect in every way. There just wasn't that thing on tape where you think, oh, he has to fix that. He's gonna have to adjust that at the next level if he's gonna get on the field for all 3 downs. He does everything to an extremely high level. Yes, he can polish some things, but there wasn't anything on tape that I thought, no, that's a negative. I'm going to dock him points off his grade for that. That he's just tremendous in every single way. Built in a lab at 6'3", 244 pounds. Got the production as well. I love what he can do in the passing game, especially rushing the passer. He's got a really developed trick bag of tricks that I think is just ever evolving. Being able to do that and move him around is going to be really exceptional, especially with a creative play caller. Say 5.5 sacks in 2024, deep bag of tricks. That just means that he's going to be on the field for all 3 downs, and defensive coordinators are just going to fall in love with what he's going to offer. It's not necessarily always what he can offer, but what he can offer to your scheme by unlocking other people. That if you can leave him on the field, it's then going to allow you, he could be lined up on the edge one play, and then you're going to be dropping into coverage the next. It means that the offense is going to have to account for that, and it's going to unlock what other people in that room are going to be able to do as well. So I don't think he escapes the first 20 selections of this draft. The athleticism, the instincts, the bruising physicality, and the ability to just be multiple different alignments, I think will be highly coveted, especially with those teams that have defensive head coaches who are just going to go, oh, that's our guy, or more vocal defensive coordinators. You think someone like, I don't think the 49ers would do it, but someone like a Robert Saleh who's going to go, no, that's the player that's going to unlock what we need to do on defense, and that's all it takes. We say all the time it only takes one team. There's going to be multiple teams that are searching for Jihaad Campbell, and if there's multiple teams interested in Jihaad Campbell, that means he's going high.
Yeah, I think for folk who are fans of Red Zone, I think Jihaad Campbell's going to feature a lot on Red Zone, blowing up a lot of plays. You're going to see these ones whenever they need a few yards or they need a passing play or whatever. Jihaad Campbell's going to be breaking up a lot of stuff, and he'll be doing his little dance or whatever celebration with his teammates. I think you're going to see quite a lot of that on NFL Red Zone within a year or two of him being in their league.
Right. Yeah, they're our top 5 linebackers. I know both of us agree we didn't watch as many linebackers as we maybe would have liked to. It's maybe just a nature of the class. It's not that deep, let's be honest, and they're not necessarily the most exciting, and we're trying to get through these position groups as much as possible. So what other names caught your eye?
Not really many.
Yeah.
I think it's not the deepest class in the world, so I think we've more or less covered the guys who are probably going to go in that first few rounds, really. I think anybody else who does get picked up, you're probably looking at guys who are going to be depth players, special teamers, those kind of players. I think the guys who are going to be role players, I think we've probably covered that few, if I'm honest. There wasn't anybody who really caught my eye. I think, they're going to be impactful in the first couple of years in the league.
Yeah, I found it quite difficult to get excited about this class as well. I think if you're a team that is in desperate need of a linebacker, it's something they're going to be attacked on the first couple of days, because there are role players later on, but you're not going to get those true 3-down linebackers on day 3. And look, you wouldn't necessarily expect to, right? But you are going to get situational players. The other player would just mention Jeffrey Basser from Oregon. He's one who I think could sneak into day 2 possibly. He's going to be a strong coverage linebacker. Who's got really good athleticism, can line up in man or zone. He's got really good ball skills as well, because he's a former defensive back. He's someone who I think could be coveted potentially late on day 2, and then say some day 3 guys to throw at you. Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma was a big name early on. He just was never the player that some people thought he was going to be. I remember seeing him in a couple of round 1 mocks. It was always far too high. Look, he's got a really good physical profile, but he really lacks any type of instinctual awareness or anticipation. So he's a developmental guy, but got good size. Smell Munden as well. He's an explosive mover from Georgia that I think could go around 4 or 5. Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame, Cody Simon from Ohio State. They would kind of round out your top 10. But yeah, there's a lot of good athleticism throughout the class, but also a lot of development needed if you're going to be drafting a linebacker on day 3. Nothing else to add?
I think that's me. Linebacker down.
There we go. Okay, so do you want to just remind us of your top 5 then?
Yeah, so I had Chris Paul Jr., or Pooh Paul, as we're calling him, from Ole Miss. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. Carson Schwesinger from UCLA. Jalon Walker from Georgia. And number 1, Jihaad Campbell from Alabama.
Yeah, and I have Barrett Carter at 5, Pooh Paul at 4, Demetrius Knight at 3, Carson Schwesinger at 2, and Jihaad Campbell at 1. And there we are. There are our top 5 linebackers and our linebacker rankings for the 2025 NFL Draft. Look, we'd love to hear what you guys think. If you're higher on a prospect, lower on a prospect, who are you hoping your team drafts? Let us know. The comment section on YouTube is the best place to do that. Stu, thank you very much for joining me. Our next episode is running backs. Very, very excited to dig into running backs. It's one of my favorite positions to evaluate. And this year, some very, very good prospects. So until then, take care of yourselves. We'll be back soon for some more draft talk.